Listen to me, life is short. You and I don't get to rehearse this. This isn't a practice round. Every breath, every sunrise, every heartbeat, it's a once-in-a-lifetime gift. And yet, most people walk through their days as if they've got forever. They say, one day I'll pray more, one day I'll forgive, one day I'll live fully, but one day too often becomes no day. You see, life doesn't wait. Time doesn't stop for your excuses. And every second you spend worrying about what people think, every moment you live disconnected from God, that's time you can never get back. When you wake up in the morning, you're not just opening your eyes, you're opening a divine opportunity. God didn't wake you up by accident. There's a purpose behind your pulse. There's meaning in your motion. The fact that you're still breathing means God's not done with you yet. But here's the truth. We waste so much energy chasing what won't last: money, fame, approval, comfort. We think success means adding more to our lives, when in reality, it's about surrendering more to God. Because when you live for Him, your days stop being ordinary. They become powerful, eternal, unstoppable. You've got to live today like it matters. You've got to live like you understand that heaven is watching, like you understand that every word you speak, every action you take is part of a much bigger story. Don't just survive the day, serve in the day. Don't just chase happiness, chase holiness. Don't just ask, what can I get? Ask, what can I give? Because when you live for God, you live beyond yourself. You live for something that can't be shaken by disappointment, can't be destroyed by death, can't be taken by anyone. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you've drifted. But listen, God's mercy resets the clock every morning. Every sunrise is another chance to live with intention, to forgive, to let go, to walk by faith instead of fear. So stop saying someday. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, because the perfect moment is now. This is your reminder that life is too short to hold grudges, too short to chase approval, too short to live small. Step into today with fire. Live it like it counts. Laugh harder. Love deeper. Forgive faster. Pray stronger. And most of all, live for the one who gave you life in the first place. Because when you live every day for God, you don't just exist, you shine. You become light in dark places, peace in chaos, hope in despair. Life is short, yes, but when you live it for God, it becomes eternal. Life is short. Every day is a divine gift, not a guarantee. You can feel it deep down when you pause long enough to notice it. The beating of your heart, the air filling your lungs, the way the sun rises, no matter what happened yesterday, none of that is something you earned. It's something you were given. And yet, most people live as if they've got a lifetime of tomorrows waiting for them, as if time is theirs to command. But the truth is, every morning you wake up is a miracle, a sacred moment of grace, a new chance to make it right, to grow, to love, to align your life with something eternal. You can lose money, you can lose opportunities, and you can rebuild those. But when you lose a day, it's gone forever. That's why the people who truly live with fire in their hearts are the ones who understand how fragile life really is. They know the value of this moment because they've stopped assuming they'll have another. When you realize that life is short, it changes how you see everything. You stop wasting time on meaningless things. You stop holding on to grudges that only poison your spirit. You stop putting off your calling because you're afraid of failure. You stop waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. You stop living on autopilot, letting days blend into weeks, weeks into months, and suddenly you're years down the road wondering where your life went. The shortness of life isn't meant to make you anxious. It's meant to make you awake. It's meant to shake you up, to make you see the beauty in the small things, and a laugh with a friend, in a quiet moment with God, in the courage it takes to start again after you fall. Every breath is an invitation to live on purpose, not by default. Too many people live as though they have an endless supply of time. They say, I'll get serious about my faith later. I'll love deeper when I'm not so busy. I'll start forgiving when I've healed more. But time doesn't wait for anyone. It doesn't slow down for your wounds, and it doesn't pause for your hesitation. The clock keeps ticking whether you're ready or not. And one day, that clock will stop. When that moment comes, you won't be thinking about what car you drove or how many followers you had. You'll be thinking about how you lived, how you loved, and whether you did what God called you to do with the time you were given. So many people live as though they're guaranteed 100 years, but the reality is every one of us is walking on borrowed time. You don't know when your last conversation will be. You don't know when your last sunrise will come. That's not meant to create fear. It's meant to awaken gratitude. Gratitude that you're still here. Gratitude that God still has a plan for you. Gratitude that today, this very moment, you have another chance to become who you were created to be. When you wake up and realize that not everyone got that same chance, something shifts inside of you. You start to see life differently. You stop complaining about what's missing and start thanking God for what's still here. You stop seeing obstacles as punishment and start seeing them as preparation. Life's brevity is not a curse, it's a blessing. It keeps us grounded, humble, aware. It reminds us that we're not in control, but we are responsible. We don't get to decide how long we live, but we do get to decide how well we live. You can choose to walk through your days numb, distracted, unfulfilled, or you can choose to wake up with intention, with purpose, with fire. You can choose to look at every sunrise as a message from God saying, I'm not done with you yet. You can choose to stop complaining about the storms and start dancing in the rain, because even the hard days are gifts. They're shaping you, stretching you, preparing you. When you realize that every day is a divine gift, you begin to treat time differently. You stop wasting it on drama, negativity, comparison. You start investing it in people, purpose, and presence. You begin to appreciate that the most valuable things in life aren't things at all. They're moments. Moments of laughter, moments of courage, moments when you stepped out in faith, even though fear was screaming at you to stay, where it was safe. The value of your life isn't measured by the length of your days, but by the depth of your purpose. Every morning is a new invitation from God to make your life count. When you open your eyes, you have the chance to create impact, to bring light into someone's darkness, to speak words that lift instead of destroy. But that requires awareness. It requires gratitude. It requires you to stop living as if tomorrow is promised. You can't waste your energy on being bitter about what didn't work out or angry about who walked away. The people who left were never meant to carry the next season of your life. The doors that closed were never meant to trap you. They were meant to redirect you. Life is too short to stay trapped in regret when God is offering you redemption. Every second of your life is an opportunity to honor the one who gave it to you. That means showing up with excellence even when nobody is watching. That means loving when it's inconvenient. That means forgiving when it's undeserved. That means trusting when you can't see the outcome. When you live like that, you stop taking life for granted and start living it as the sacred, fleeting, beautiful miracle that it is. You stop counting the days and start making the days count. You begin to see time not as an enemy chasing you, but as a canvas on which God is painting your story. The truth is, the people who live with the most passion are the ones who understand how temporary everything here really is. They don't need perfection to be happy. They don't need recognition to feel fulfilled. They find joy in the journey because they know how quickly it can end. They stop complaining about the season they're in and start thanking God for the strength to endure it. They stop chasing the next big thing and start cherishing what's in front of them. When you realize life is short, you begin to slow down, breathe deeper, listen more, love harder. You begin to align your priorities with eternity, not just the moment. You start to live not for what will fade, but for what will last forever. You've got one life and it's happening right now. Not next week, not next year, not when everything lines up perfectly. It's happening in this very breath, in this heartbeat, in this day you've been given. You didn't earn it, but you can choose to honor it. You can choose to wake up with gratitude, to see every obstacle as opportunity, to see every delay as divine timing. You can choose to stop rushing through your life and start living in it. Because every second you're alive is proof that God's not finished with you yet, that your purpose still has pages left to be written, that your life, no matter how short, can echo into eternity if you choose to live it with intention and faith. Stop chasing what fades. Start living for what lasts, God's purpose. Every single day, people wake up and run. They run after recognition, after comfort, after applause, after things that shimmer for a moment and vanish the next. The world tells you that success is found in accumulation, in building bigger, in having more. But the truth is, none of those things can fill the emptiness in your soul. The car will lose its shine, the house will lose its thrill, the compliments will fade, and the applause will stop. And when it does, you'll realize that everything you were chasing was temporary. It wasn't meant to sustain you, it was meant to test you. The moment you start chasing what fades, you start drifting from the eternal. But the moment you decide to live for what lasts, for God's purpose, everything changes. There's a deeper hunger in the human heart that no amount of success or status can satisfy. You can climb the ladder of life and still feel empty at the top if the ladder's leaning against the wrong wall. You can gain the world and lose your peace. You can achieve everything people said would make you happy and still feel a hole inside that no achievement can fill. Because you weren't created to live for things that rust, rot, or fade away. You were created for something eternal. You were created to reflect the image of God, to carry his love, to walk in his purpose. And when you step into that, when your life starts aligning with God's plan, that's when you find true fulfillment. Not the kind that fades when circumstances shift, but the kind that anchors you no matter what storms come. People spend so much energy trying to impress others who are just as lost and uncertain as they are. We live in a culture obsessed with image, with being seen, with being liked, with being noticed. But the truth is, the people whose approval you crave will forget your name one day. The things you work so hard to build will one day belong to someone else. That's the harsh reality of chasing what fades. But when you live for God's purpose, you start focusing on impact instead of image. You stop asking, how do I look, and start asking, what difference am I making? You stop seeking validation and start seeking direction. You stop trying to control everything and start trusting that God's way is better than your way. There's nothing wrong with ambition. There's nothing wrong with wanting success. But when success becomes your identity instead of your assignment, that's when you start losing your soul. God doesn't want to take away your dreams. He wants to redirect them. He wants to breathe life into them so they serve something greater than your ego. He wants to take what you're passionate about and use it to build his kingdom, not just your comfort. Because when you live for his purpose, your work becomes worship, your struggles become testimony, and your story becomes a message that points others to hope. When you chase what fades, you live in constant anxiety because you're always afraid of losing it. You're afraid of losing status, losing followers, losing opportunities, losing control. You start defining your worth by things that can disappear overnight. But when you live for what lasts, peace replaces pressure. You stop competing and start contributing. You stop fearing failure because you know your worth isn't tied to what you have, but to who you belong to. Living for God's purpose doesn't mean you won't face challenges. It means those challenges won't define you. They refine you. They prepare you. They remind you that your foundation is not in the shifting sand of success, but in the unshakable rock of God's truth. Every day you have a choice to chase the visible or to trust the invisible, to run after what the world calls valuable or to pursue what heaven calls eternal. The world measures greatness by how much you get. God measures greatness by how much you give. The world says, look out for yourself. God says, lay yourself down. The world says, build your brand. God says, build my kingdom. And here's the secret. When you live for his purpose, you don't lose anything that truly matters. You gain everything your soul was longing for but didn't know how to find. When you live for what fades, your joy becomes conditional. You're happy only when things go right, only when people like you, only when life looks like your plan. But when you live for what lasts, your joy becomes unshakable. You can be standing in the middle of chaos and still have peace because your foundation isn't built on circumstances, it's built on faith. You can be overlooked by people and still feel valued because your worth doesn't depend on their attention, it depends on God's approval. You can lose what the world calls success and still walk tall because you know you're walking in purpose. There's something powerful about surrender, not the kind that means giving up, but the kind that means giving it over. Giving over your plans, your dreams, your timelines, your control. Saying, God, use my life however you choose. That's where true freedom begins. Because the truth is, chasing what fades is exhausting. It's like running on a treadmill. You're moving fast but going nowhere. But when you surrender to God's purpose, you stop running in circles and start moving forward with clarity. You stop living by pressure and start living by peace. Some people will never understand your choices when you start living for what lasts. They'll question why you're not chasing what they're chasing. They'll think you're missing out. But what they don't see is the peace you carry, the fulfillment that doesn't depend on things, the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're aligned with something eternal. Let them chase their moment, you're building for eternity. Let them build castles in the sand, you're building on rock. Because when the waves come, when the storms hit, what's built on God's Purpose stands firm while everything else crumbles. Living for what lasts means being intentional with your time, your words, your energy. It means asking, is what I'm doing today building something eternal, or is it just feeding my ego? It means learning to say no to distractions so you can say yes to destiny. It means trading temporary pleasure for lasting purpose. It means choosing integrity over popularity, obedience over convenience, faith over fear. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Because every act of obedience, every choice to trust, every sacrifice made for God's glory echoes in eternity. The truth is, what you build for yourself will fade, but what you build for God will last forever. The money will fade, the fame will fade, the applause will fade, but the lives you touched, the love you gave, the faith you lived, those will never fade. Those are the things that live on long after you're gone. That's what it means to live for what lasts. It's not about achieving more, it's about aligning more. It's about letting your life become a vessel for something greater than your own name. It's about waking up every day and saying, God, let today count for you. So many people spend their lives climbing the ladder of success only to realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. Don't let that be you. Don't waste your life chasing shadows. Start living for what matters. Start living for what will outlast you. Because when you do, everything changes. Your priorities shift. Your relationships deepen. Your perspective expands. You stop existing and start truly living. You stop chasing what fades and start walking in what lasts. And in that place, you find peace, purpose, and fulfillment that no world can take away. Each sunrise is a new start to serve, forgive, and grow. Every morning you wake up, you are handed a blank page, a fresh canvas on which to write your story. Yet too many people treat this gift carelessly. They stumble out of bed, caught up in routines, rushing toward obligations, forgetting that each day is not just a continuation of yesterday, but a unique opportunity to make an eternal impact. Life does not owe us repetition. It only offers us moments one after another, and how we use them determines the trajectory of our souls. Every sunrise carries with it a reminder from God that you are still here, that His mercy has brought you through the night, and that there is still work for you to do, lessons to learn, people to touch, and love to give. The act of serving is not just about doing for others, it is about aligning yourself with God's purpose. Every time you serve someone, whether it's a kind word, a listening ear, or a helping hand, you are participating in a divine cycle that transcends time. Service transforms both the giver and the receiver. It shapes your character, builds resilience, and teaches humility. Too often, we wait for recognition or reward before we serve. We think I'll help if it benefits me, or I'll give if someone notices. But service that matters is given freely, without expectation. When you wake up each day ready to serve, you start to live in abundance because the act of giving connects you to something eternal. Serving is not a task. It is a lifestyle, a mindset, and a daily choice that can turn ordinary days into sacred experiences. Forgiveness is the second gift embedded in every sunrise. Each morning offers an opportunity to release what binds you, to let go of resentment, anger, and pain. Holding on to grudges is like carrying stones in your pockets. They weigh you down, restrict your movement, and blind you to the beauty around you. Forgiveness is not about excusing wrongs. It is about liberating yourself. It is about allowing God to cleanse your heart so you can move forward unencumbered. Life is too short to live trapped in bitterness. When you forgive, you open doors to peace and joy that were previously locked. Each new day is a chance to reconcile, to make amends, and to heal. You do not have to wait for the other person to change. You only need to choose to change your perspective, to release your pain, and to step into the freedom that God provides. Growth is the third pillar that each sunrise presents. Every day is designed to stretch you, teach you, and expand your capacity to love, lead, and live fully. Growth can be uncomfortable because it often requires leaving the familiar behind and stepping into the unknown. But discomfort is the sign of transformation. Life does not reward comfort. It rewards courage, faith, and persistence. Growth requires you to examine your thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs and ask, am I moving closer to who God created me to be? Each challenge, each trial, And even each mistake is an invitation to learn and to evolve. When you embrace growth as a daily pursuit, you start to see setbacks not as failures, but as stepping stones toward your destiny. Every morning offers you the choice to grow beyond fear, beyond limitation, beyond the self-imposed boundaries that have held you back. Serving, forgiving, and growing are not separate actions. They are interconnected. When you serve, you learn humility and patience, which makes forgiveness easier. When you forgive, your heart becomes lighter and more open, which allows for deeper growth. When you grow, you become more capable of serving others and understanding their struggles. Each sunrise is a gift precisely because it gives you another chance to integrate these three powerful forces into your life. Every day is an opportunity to become a better version of yourself, to live intentionally, and to reflect God's light in the world around you. Too often, people treat mornings as mere beginnings of routines rather than sacred chances to reset. We wake up distracted, consumed by worries about the past or anxiety about the future. But each new day exists outside of the past and offers freedom from yesterday's mistakes. Every sunrise whispers the message that God is still at work, that his plans are ongoing, and that you are invited to participate. The moment you choose to step into that truth, life becomes less about survival and more about purpose. You start to see each day as a battlefield, not against others, but against your own limitations, fears, and doubts. And in that battlefield, the weapons are service, forgiveness, and growth. Serving others each day builds character in ways nothing else can. It forces you to move beyond selfish desires and consider the needs of others. It teaches empathy, patience, and compassion. When you serve consistently, you begin to see the fingerprints of God in unexpected places, in the smile of someone you helped, in the relief of someone you comforted, in the gratitude expressed by a person whose life you touched. Service creates ripples that extend far beyond your vision. You may never know the full impact of your actions, but God does. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, contributes to a legacy that can outlast your lifetime. Forgiveness is equally transformative. Holding grudges, nursing anger, and dwelling on past wrongs can trap your spirit in a cycle of negativity. Forgiveness releases that burden and allows you to move forward with clarity. Every sunrise is an invitation to forgive, whether it's forgiving others, forgiving circumstances, or forgiving yourself. Self-forgiveness is often the hardest but most essential form. We carry guilt and shame unnecessarily, believing we must be perfect to be worthy. But God's grace is bigger than our mistakes. Each new day gives you the chance to release self-condemnation and step into the freedom that forgiveness provides. By forgiving, you align yourself with God's heart and create space for joy, peace, and spiritual growth to flourish. Growth requires intentionality. It demands that you engage with life proactively rather than passively. It asks you to reflect, to pray, to read, to learn, and to act. Growth is fueled by curiosity, resilience, and faith. Life will always challenge you with circumstances beyond your control, but your response determines your transformation. Every sunrise is a blank slate, a moment to reassess, to set goals, and to take steps toward your highest potential. Growth is not linear. It's a series of intentional choices made consistently over time. Every morning is an opportunity to choose courage over comfort, discipline over distraction, and wisdom over ignorance. When you combine service, forgiveness, and growth, you start living in alignment with God's purpose. Each day becomes a deliberate act of spiritual investment. You understand that your actions have eternal significance, that your choices matter beyond the immediate moment, and that your life is part of a larger story authored by God himself. The sunrise reminds you that you are not trapped by yesterday, nor are you confined to a predetermined path without influence. Every day is a new chance to steer your life toward meaning, fulfillment, and eternal impact. The challenge is consistency. It is easy to be inspired for a moment, to wake up with good intentions, and then let the busyness of life pull you away. But when you commit to embracing each sunrise as an opportunity to serve, forgive, and grow, you create a rhythm that strengthens your spirit and transforms your life. It is in the small, consistent daily actions that the biggest transformations occur. You may not see immediate results, but God is at work behind the scenes, molding, shaping, and guiding you. Every sunrise carries potential. The potential to reconcile with someone, to reach out to someone in need, to take a step toward personal growth, to deepen your relationship with God. The potential to shift your perspective, to embrace gratitude, to act with courage, and to live intentionally. Each day is a call to action, a call to wake up fully alive, aware of the brevity of life, and conscious of the eternal opportunities before you. When you recognize the sacredness of each sunrise, you stop taking life for granted and start living as though every moment matters, because in truth, it does. Serving, forgiving, and growing are choices. They require awareness, courage, and commitment. They require that you stop blaming, stop waiting, stop making excuses, and start engaging with life fully. Every sunrise is a reminder that you are still here, that God still has plans for you, that your life still has purpose. It is not just another day, it is another chance to become more of who God created you to be. Each day carries the promise of transformation, the opportunity for redemption, and the power to impact lives in ways you may never fully understand. When you embrace the sunrise as a gift, as an invitation to serve, forgive, and grow, you align yourself with God's timing and purpose. You begin to live intentionally rather than reactively. You start to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. You cultivate a heart that is generous, a mind that is resilient, and a spirit that is unwavering. Every sunrise is an opportunity to rewrite your story, to deepen your faith, and to make your life a reflection of God's love and grace. In living this way, each day becomes more than just a passage of time. It becomes a building block of eternity. It becomes a moment where your actions, words, and choices carry significance beyond what you can see. It becomes a testament to the power of living deliberately, intentionally, and faithfully. Service, forgiveness, and growth are not just acts. They are a way of life that transforms you from the inside out, preparing you for greater purpose and deeper fulfillment in alignment with God's will. Don't just survive the day, serve in the day. Too often, people wake up and their only goal is to get through the hours, to survive the challenges, to check off tasks, and to make it to the end of the day. But life is not meant to be merely endured. It is meant to be engaged, to be lived with passion, with purpose, and with intentionality. Every day is a gift, and surviving is the lowest form of existence. Serving in the day, on the other hand, elevates your life. It transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for impact, and it turns mundane routines into acts of meaning. Service is the antidote to mediocrity, the bridge between potential and purpose, and the vehicle through which God's love flows through you into the lives of others. Serving requires a shift in perspective. It requires seeing beyond your own needs, your own fears, and your own comfort. It requires a heart that is willing to move, to act, to give without expecting anything in return. When you wake up each morning with the intention to serve, your mindset changes. You start looking for opportunities instead of obstacles. You start asking, how can I make a difference today rather than how can I get through this day? Serving in the day is not about doing grand gestures. It is about small, consistent acts that reflect God's love and his purpose for your life. Every smile, every word of encouragement, every act of kindness, every moment of patience, these are the ways service manifests. Many people confuse survival with success. They think that making it through the day without major disasters is enough. But survival is passive. It is reactive. It is existing rather than thriving. Thriving comes when you step into your calling, when you engage actively with the world around you, and when you live with intentionality. God does not call you to a life of mere existence. He calls you to a life of influence. Serving in the day is how influence begins. It is how you take the gifts God has given you, your time, your talents, your resources, and turn them into something greater than yourself. It is how you stop being consumed by your own problems and start being a solution for someone else. Serving requires courage because it often takes you out of your comfort zone. It asks you to look past your own limitations, to step into uncertainty, and to act in faith. Sometimes serving means speaking truth when it's uncomfortable, extending love when it's undeserved, or giving when you feel like you have nothing left to give. But the courage to serve is what builds character. It is what shapes your spirit and strengthens your faith. Every act of service, no matter how small, becomes a seed planted in the lives of others, a seed that can grow, multiply, and create lasting impact far beyond what you can see. Serving is not just about others, it transforms you as well. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from fear to faith, from self-centeredness to God-centeredness. When you serve, you experience joy that cannot be manufactured, peace that cannot be bought, and fulfillment that cannot be measured in material terms. Serving in the day aligns you with God's heart because God is a servant at his core. Every act of love, every moment of generosity, every word of encouragement reflects his nature. When you serve, you participate in the divine rhythm of giving, of blessing, and of multiplying goodness in the world. It's easy to get caught up in survival because life can be challenging. Responsibilities pile up, stress mounts, and it feels like just keeping your head above water is enough. But surviving without serving is a wasted opportunity. Every challenge you face, every problem you endure, every hardship you encounter is a chance to grow stronger and to serve better. Service is not just about helping when it's convenient. It is about stepping up when it matters most. It is about turning adversity into advantage, struggle into strategy, and pain into purpose. When you serve in the day, even your struggles become tools for impact. Serving also requires intentionality and discipline. It means starting the day with purpose, setting your mind on the mission God has placed before you, and taking deliberate action to make a difference. You can't wait for inspiration to strike or for conditions to be perfect. Serving demands commitment. It asks you to say yes, even when it's inconvenient, to prioritize others, even when you are tired, to act even when you are uncertain. Discipline in service is what transforms small actions into lasting change. The more intentional you are, the greater your impact, and the more aligned your life becomes with God's calling. One of the most powerful aspects of serving is its ripple effect. You may not see the full impact of your actions, but God sees it. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every effort to lift someone up creates a chain reaction that can touch lives in ways you cannot imagine. Serving in the day is not just about what you accomplish, it is about how your life becomes a vessel through which God's love flows. Your service multiplies, your influence expands, your legacy begins. Serving turns ordinary days into extraordinary opportunities to participate in God's work, to be a light in darkness, and to bring hope where there is despair. Serving requires humility. It asks you to put others before yourself, to step back from pride and ego, and to embrace a mindset of giving rather than taking. Humility is not weakness, it is strength under control. It is the recognition that your life is not about you alone, but about the ways you can contribute to something greater. When you serve, humility allows you to see people for who they are, to meet them where they are, and to offer help without judgment. It frees you from the trap of comparison and competition and positions you in alignment with God's heart. Serving also calls for perseverance. Not every effort will be appreciated. Not every act will be recognized. Sometimes your service will feel unnoticed, your efforts will seem wasted, and your contributions may appear small. But God measures differently. Every effort you make to serve in alignment with his purpose is meaningful. Perseverance in service builds character, strengthens faith, and demonstrates obedience. It trains your heart to give without expectation, to act without recognition, and to love without condition. Each day that you serve, even quietly or unnoticed, you're investing in eternity. Serving in the day transforms your perspective. It shifts your focus from what is lacking in your life to what you can give. It changes your priorities, your values, and your motivations. When you serve, you start to see the world through God's eyes with compassion, with hope, with purpose. You recognize that life is not about accumulating possessions or accolades, but about making a difference, building relationships, and leaving a legacy that outlasts you. Service turns ordinary tasks into meaningful actions and ordinary people into instruments of change. The act of serving also strengthens your faith. When you step out to help, to give, to love, and to encourage, you are living in obedience to God. Faith without action is incomplete. but faith expressed through service becomes tangible and powerful. Serving reminds you that God equips those he calls and that your impact is not limited by your resources, abilities, or circumstances. The very act of giving, even when it feels small, demonstrates trust in God's provision and power. Each day offers a new chance to practice this trust, to step into action, and to allow God to multiply your efforts beyond measure. Serving in the day is a deliberate choice to live intentionally. It is a rejection of passive survival and an embrace of active purpose. It is an understanding that life is fleeting and that every moment is a chance to make an eternal difference. Serving transforms your mind, your heart, and your soul. It cultivates gratitude, strengthens resilience, and deepens relationships. It creates a life of impact rather than mere existence, a life that reflects God's love, power, and purpose. Each day you choose to serve, you become a living example of faith in action, a beacon of hope, and a force for transformation in the lives of those around you. When you commit to serving in the day, you start to live differently. You approach challenges with courage, obstacles with creativity, and opportunities with enthusiasm. You see each person as a chance to bless, each situation as a platform to grow, and each moment as a sacred gift from God. Serving turns the ordinary into extraordinary, the mundane into meaningful, and the fleeting into eternal. It aligns your life with God's heart, expands your influence, and creates a legacy that cannot be erased. Every day is a new chance to live this way, a new chance to serve, a new chance to make a difference, a new chance to walk fully in the calling God has placed on your life. Don't just ask, what can I get? Ask, what can I give? Life is too often spent in pursuit of personal gain, chasing things that fade, collecting accolades, possessions, and temporary satisfactions. We live in a world that tells us to prioritize ourselves, to secure comfort, to compete, and to accumulate. But the truth is, the most powerful, fulfilling, and meaningful lives are not built on what you take, but on what you give. When you shift your focus from consumption to contribution, everything changes. Giving is not just about money or material possessions. It is about time, energy, attention, love, wisdom, and faith. It is about living a life that reflects God's heart, a life that invests in people, in purpose, and in eternity rather than fleeting desires. Giving begins with mindset. Most people believe they must first have everything for themselves before they can give to others. They think, I'll help when I'm secure. I'll invest when I'm comfortable. I'll love when I'm loved in return. But God calls you to live differently. Giving is an act of faith, an expression of trust that when you release what you have into the lives of others, he multiplies it in ways you cannot foresee. Generosity is not about scarcity. It is about abundance, recognizing that what God has entrusted to you is not just for your benefit, but for the benefit of those around you. Every day presents opportunities to give. A word of encouragement, a smile, a moment of your time, a helping hand, a listening ear. These acts, though small in the moment, ripple outward in ways that can change lives, inspire hope, and transform hearts. When you ask, what can I give? You begin to live with purpose. Life ceases to be about surviving or accumulating and becomes about contributing to a larger story. Every action you take, every decision you make, every interaction you have becomes a chance to reflect God's love. Giving transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary opportunities. The morning you wake up, the emails you respond to, the conversations you have, the decisions you make all become acts of stewardship when you approach them with a question of contribution. It is this mindset that turns life from self-centered to God-centered, from fleeting to eternal. Giving also requires courage. It is easy to give when it costs nothing, when it is convenient, when there is no risk involved. But the true test of generosity comes when it challenges you, when it stretches your limits, when it demands sacrifice. Giving your time when you're tired, giving your resources when they are limited, giving your heart when it's been hurt. These are the moments that define character. God measures not the quantity, but the intention and faith behind what is given. Each act of courageous giving strengthens your spirit, deepens your faith, and builds resilience. It teaches you to trust God's provision, to rely on his timing and to understand that generosity is never wasted. Giving is also transformative for the giver. When you focus on what you can give rather than what you can get, you shift from scarcity to abundance. You stop comparing yourself to others, chasing validation, or measuring success by material standards. Giving cultivates gratitude because it reminds you that you have enough to share, that you are blessed, and that your life has purpose beyond your own desires. It fosters joy because generosity is inherently rewarding. It produces fulfillment that cannot be bought or manufactured. And it deepens connection because giving inherently involves others. It strengthens relationships, builds trust, and creates community centered on love, care, and mutual support. Forgiveness is one of the greatest forms of giving. Letting go of resentment, bitterness, and anger is an act of generosity toward yourself and others. Each time you forgive, you release a burden that holds you back. You give freedom, peace, and love instead of pain, hatred, and division. Forgiveness does not mean excusing wrongdoing. It means choosing to step into the life God intended for you rather than remaining trapped by past offenses. Giving forgiveness is giving life for both the giver and the recipient. Every sunrise is an invitation to forgive, to release, and to give the gift of freedom to yourself and those around you. Giving also creates a legacy. What you give today echoes into tomorrow. Words of encouragement, acts of service, mentorship, and generosity plant seeds that grow in ways you cannot always see. You may not witness the full impact of your giving, but God sees, and his work multiplies what you release into the world. The person you encourage may go on to inspire hundreds. The act of kindness you offer may become a turning point in someone's life. Generosity is never wasted. It compounds and creates effects far beyond the immediate moment. When you focus on giving, you leave a footprint on the world that outlasts your lifetime. Giving is a demonstration of trust in God's provision. When you let go of your resources, your time, or your energy for the sake of others, you are saying, I trust that God will take care of me and that my life is not defined by what I hold on to, but by what I release. Generosity is a spiritual exercise that trains your faith, disciplines your heart, and enlarges your capacity to receive as well. The more you give, the more you understand that life is not about hoarding, but about flow. Resources, blessings, opportunities, all are meant to circulate. When they do, they create abundance for all involved. Giving requires intentionality. It does not happen by accident. You must consciously look for ways to contribute, to serve, and to bless others. It requires planning, awareness, and deliberate action. The world is full of distractions that pull your attention inward towards selfish desires and away from eternal impact. But when you actively ask, what can I give? You position yourself to see God's opportunities in every interaction. You notice needs, you respond to challenges, and you act with purpose rather than reaction. Giving transforms your daily routine into a platform for divine impact. Giving also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not the center of the universe and that your life has value when it is poured into others. Humility and generosity are inseparable because giving without pride requires surrender. It requires acknowledging that God has entrusted resources to you for a purpose greater than yourself. It asks you to step aside from ego and self-interest and to embrace a higher calling. True giving is selfless, intentional, and transformative, reflecting the nature of God's love for the world, serving, forgiving, mentoring, teaching, and loving. All are forms of giving that shape eternity. Every day is an opportunity to give in ways that matter, to give hope where there is despair, to give encouragement where there is doubt, to give time where there is distraction, to give wisdom where there is confusion, to give love where there is hate. Giving is not just an action, it is a lifestyle. It is the deliberate choice to focus outward rather than inward, to invest in people and purpose rather than possessions and self-interest. When you ask, what can I give? You start living differently. You approach life with abundance, with gratitude, and with purpose. You stop measuring your life by what you get and start measuring it by the difference you make. You stop waiting for recognition or reward because the act of giving itself becomes the reward. You recognize that your life is not about consuming, it is about contributing, impacting, and leaving a legacy that aligns with God's purpose. Every day becomes an opportunity to be a blessing, to be a vessel of hope, and to live intentionally in a way that transcends temporary and touches the eternal. Giving is transformative not only for the recipient, but for the giver, creating a cycle of faith, gratitude, and fulfillment. It builds character, strengthens resilience, and enlarges the heart. The more you give, the more capable you become of giving, the more open you become to receiving God's blessings, and the more aligned you become with His plan. Giving turns ordinary days into extraordinary opportunities to serve, to love, and to walk in faith. It transforms your mindset, your heart, and your life. When you live with a question, what can I give? At the center of your day, every interaction becomes meaningful. Every challenge becomes a chance to bless. Every success becomes an opportunity to share. Every hardship becomes a platform for generosity of spirit, encouragement, and service. Giving is not a one-time act. It is a daily choice, a lifestyle, and a reflection of God's heart working through you. It is the pathway to fulfillment, purpose, and eternal impact. Every day is a new chance to ask, what can I give? And to live as a conduit of God's love, mercy, and grace in the world.